Hey everybody, my name is Victorjoshua Dunn. I'm here with Jose. This is my first interview with Jose talking about what it takes to be a creative director. So Jose, thank you for sitting down with me. It's definitely a pleasure. And would you mind telling us a little bit about where you are in life?
My name is Jose Caballer. I'm a design director, I guess. Well, I'm a user experience designer and a designer, and I studied graphic design, but over the years I became a digital guy, I guess. And right now I am in a loft in New York City in the process of figuring things out. I started the school 4 years ago. Recently I separated the school, where I separated the businesses from my business partner, and he's building the future, and I'm figuring out what to do with my future. And I came here to New York City to have some conversations with some really cool people about building the future together.
That's interesting. That's cool. So would you mind telling us a little bit about what you're working on right now in terms of your creative endeavors as a director?
So a couple things. One, I'm still working on teaching online. I'm making Core 2.0, which is a facilitation product for designers, basically freelancers and people that are building websites and creating marketing campaigns. Core allows people to figure out the brand by defining attributes, the customers by creating customer profiles, and the business goals by creating a prioritized list of business goals, like what do we need to do for awareness, for marketing, what do we need to do for revenue, what do we need to do for operational efficiency, and then prioritizing those things and being able to attack them in a smart kind of fashion. So I'm building the second version of that product, which is how I make a living. But in addition, I'm in the middle of a conversation about coming to help a startup community build a design practice inside their community, and that's super exciting. And figuring life out.
That's always good.
Getting interviewed or helping in this endeavor of, hey, how do you do this stuff?
Yeah. So would you mind telling us about how you became a creative director?
Good question. So in 1996, when I graduated from design school, I went to Art Center College of Design. I had an opportunity to interview with a company called Razorfish when I was in school, and I didn't get a job with them, but I knew I wanted to work there. And I don't know why, I just had this intuitive feeling, just because of the name, I guess, Razorfish. That sounds crazy. I have to go there, and specifically to New York, because that's where the company was. So I ended up coming here with another job that I got at an ad agency called Poppy Tyson, but I only lasted there a few months. And the guys who had been originally hired at Razorfish quit suddenly because it wasn't a design studio, it was something else. And I ran into the art director at the Whitney, at the Cooper Hewitt actually. It's a show, so events are really important. Go to the design events in your community. Okay. And I ran into him and he's like, what are you doing? I said, working at an ad agency. He said, do you want to come work at Razorfish? And I'm like, sure. So I ended up at Razorfish, and it was at a time of really high growth. And I was an early designer, like the 13th employee there, and I started, long story of it is that there was a lot of needs when you're growing so fast, especially when it comes to team building and culture and a few of those things. So I ended up just starting to do cultural things. Like I started to do a Lego competition so that we brought the team together and we had team building. So I didn't ask for permission, I just did it. And people were like, oh, okay. So I started getting leadership given to me because I took it. I started traveling and going to other projects to help the teams execute on those projects. And early on, look, I couldn't sit for hours doing the work, but I was really good at pitching. Yeah. And I was really good at articulating ideas visually based on the client's needs. So that's a really specific skill. And it's a skill more of a creative director than a designer, because I didn't want to sit there and design this stuff, man. That took forever and it was boring. So I rather come up with the ideas, and I rather listen to the client, and I rather talk about the ideas than do them.
Yeah.
So that was my secret, my magic skill, which is like, I can actually facilitate the opportunity that the client is trying to figure out, and that was really valuable for them, for my employer. So I went from that to San Francisco to do Sega Dreamcast Network, and I did a good job on helping the team figure that out. So I got flown to Germany because our team had just quit and there was only a few designers left, and we were understaffed and had too many projects, so I had to stabilize and hire. And so I was beginning to get put into the position of being a creative director because of the necessity, how they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and they also call it battlefield promotions, because it's like, somebody needs to do this, hey, you, go, do that. And since I was an early employee, I was trusted culturally, and that I would do, and you also have a positive attitude, you're just like, hey, let's get this done.
Yeah.
You're not there bitching about like, this is bad or not bad or good, whatever. You just get it done, whatever needs to get done.
That's interesting. So what would you describe as some of the challenges that you faced as a creative director, or just as a designer in general?
Look, at the end of the day, the challenge you're going to face as a creative director is having people on your team, finding people that have the skills needed to do a project. So if you're doing a financial services website, you want somebody who has experience in financial services. You want somebody who has seen the movie. You want somebody who can do what you need without a lot of training, and that you can trust and put in front of the client. Because if you don't have that, then you really put the project, the account at jeopardy. So that's why when you see resume or when you see job listings, they're super specific. We're looking for somebody with 5 years or more in financial services who has this skill and 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 this skill. They're basically mitigating risk. Yeah. But beyond that, you want somebody who adds value to your team and who is a potential for being a leader like you. So leaders hire leaders.
Yeah.
And they want people who are able to take on the discomfort of growing as designers. So personal growth and self-awareness becomes super important. And you want somebody who has the ability to do what needs to be done in a positive manner, and who has the foundational skills. I can teach skills.
Yeah. I
can help people get better at, Illustrator or at design. It would be ideal if they come in with those things already. Mm-hmm. But if they're not 100% there, I can actually polish that. Mm-hmm. What I can't polish is somebody with a crappy attitude.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. So what would you actually need from me personally to help you solve those challenges?
Yeah, look, at the basic level, that you know yourself well, that you know what your skills are, that you know that you're better at this than at this, and you tell me, that you know that this is what you want to develop versus this, that these are the type of projects that I'm interested in. And if you give me those things, then I have something to work with. So I can say, he needs skills here, he needs skills here, and he's really good at here. So that would give me a good handle on a path that we can travel together on.
Yeah.
Because if I don't know and I'm trying to guess, that just takes too much time and too much effort. But there's a lot of base level skills. One of the most important things is showing me that you've done things, that you've gotten things done, that you've provided value to your own clients, that you've finished projects. So whatever you do, you have to go from beginning to end, and that's why case studies are so important. Problem, here's a problem that somebody came to me for. Yeah. Solution, here's how I approached it, here's how I solved it. And results, like here's the results of me helping so-and-so solve that problem. So ultimately, if you can have the core foundational skills you need, you have the self-awareness to know where you need to improve and what you do well, and you can show me that you've actually provided value to other people, I have the majority of what I need to make a decision as to whether I want to work with you or not.
That's interesting. That's really, really interesting. So how would you mind describing how your team actually helps you solve or meet those challenges?
How a team works? Yeah, look, if you have a project, let's say like right now, I am. I did a project for a former client of mine who's a startup, and he's doing another startup, and he wanted to do it like, you know, very lean, which means he didn't want to spend a lot of money. I didn't want to charge him for it. I just, you know, so we did it at me as an advisor with equity, and I just leveraged our community online. So I did a core facilitated session to define the brand, the users, and the business goals. And we did that with the community, and the community did 3 stylescapes, which are like 3 directions of what the design can be based on the attributes.
Yeah.
And the client gave feedback on all 3. Then I personally took all the feedback and all of the stylescapes, and I consolidated them into a final stylescape. Keep in mind, I didn't do the design of the identity, and I just kind of polished it a little bit and spent maybe a few hours on that. And showed it back to the client. The client approved it, and now I needed it to get produced. So I didn't want to do the design. I'm acting as creative director. I'm directing. So I went on Upwork with the client's account. They had their own account with their own account information and credit card. And I put up a job posting on, I need somebody to translate these designs, because we had made comps in Illustrator. I needed them translated into Sketch, which is another program that is more for developing, you know, mobile and responsive. And this is a responsive site. Before they do an app, they're doing it all. So the first was mobile first was the comp. So I did some kind of rough comps of the mobile first based on the wireframes, which were done by the client.
Okay.
So keep in mind, we're doing this fast and dirty.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of experience building startups. And I did the comps based on that. He approved them. I then put my listing. I found somebody, a designer in the Dominican Republic, who had a really good mobile.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
On Upwork. And I said, hey man, here's how much I need somebody to put these 4 screens into Sketch. And he did. And then once they were put into Sketch, now we were going to make the wider version. That's why I wanted them in Sketch, because they were easier to do. But I'm not doing all the production. Now he's doing it. All I did was facilitate and do the kind of polish of the design. And then I had somebody do the production for me. So I have a production person. I have a designers that did the stylescapes. You know, you have the client. There's a developer on the team. All I'm doing is facilitating and directing. But the people, the guy in the Dominican Republic, he needs to know how to use Sketch. He needs to know how to translate my comps into that. He needs to know what the widths need to be for mobile. A lot of the stuff you can just Google and search and learn, but I saw his portfolio and he had a lot of mobile in it, so I assumed he had all those skills, and he did.
That's good.
Yeah. Then he did the design of the wider versions, and it wasn't as great because I hadn't designed it myself. He did an okay job. And then I went in and I gave him feedback. Again, that's a creative director role. And I gave him some suggestions and references. It's like, make it look a little bit like this more, or like this site. He immediately came back with
full-blown,
with a revised version that was like, okay, hits the spot. So that was 2 revisions. He presented it to me once. I gave him feedback, then he finished it, and then had very minor feedback. But he did a great job. So again, he had the technical skills to do it. He had a good eye. Like he was good. He was good. Was he like end all, you know, from a kind of vision of what the possibility could be for the design? No, but that's not what I needed. I had that. What I needed was somebody who had the technical skills and was reliable and would do it and do what they said.
That's good. That's amazing that he was able to do that and translate.
Yeah, then there's tons of people like that in Upwork. I mean, production overseas is one of the big, huge things that people get done. There's really high quality people on there. If you're a designer, you're competing with a global community of designers. Now, the question is, do you want to be a designer or do you want to be a design leader? Because I can pay you $15, $10 an hour to do production for me from Romania. But who gets paid $100 or $200?
The creative director, yeah.
Well, the person who has the relationship with the client and who can provide a vision to the client, who can align the client's interests. You know, people think, for me, and this is me personally, doing the craft of the work is exciting as an artist, because when you're younger, that's what you love to do.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, you know, come on, I have better things to do with my time. I love great design, and I can design on my own personal projects, or on, you know, that's why you see people who are older sometimes start doing, like, you know, painting, or like more like creative endeavors.
That's interesting. Would you be able to describe someone who's exceeded your needs and help you met those challenges?
Yeah, you know, if you look at people who are able to come to the table with really impressive kind of communication skills, and really impressive attitude, who can make anything happen, you'll really see someone who basically, one of the things I used to say to my students at Art Center was, to be a really good designer, you have to be, it's not necessarily smarter, but you have to be really connected and grounded to life and to the things that make life interesting. Yeah. You know, the worst is people who are really close and cloistered, and who do not have a lot of, you know, life experience. Mm-hmm. So that's why a lot of people talk about inspiration. It's like, you know, get out of the office, or go do XYZ, or, you know, do this. Yeah. So for me, communication is super critical. And then people who get stuff done, people who are building cool stuff. Like I love, you know, walking into communities and seeing creatives, designers who are doing their own projects, who are putting them out there, and who are making money at it, who know how to do that. I see it all the time online, and, you know, they're promoting their design practices, or they have a unique design practice. Like there's these kids, there's this girl from AIGA Los Angeles that I met many years ago, and who really just is doing an amazing job. There's several of them, but this one particularly, she's merging her interest in spirituality and in, you know, the esoteric into her design practices, and focusing on that, and being a coach and a, you know, designer for entrepreneurial people in the spiritual community. That's awesome. She's marching to her own drummer and doing her own thing, and I love seeing that online. That's somebody who gets stuff done. So when it comes to decisions on hiring people and on finding collaborators, you usually look for people that are powerful, because they're doing stuff already. Somebody who's afraid of their shadow and who's not willing to go out there and try shit out and fail is useless to me.
Wow. That's wow. That's definitely a lot of insight there. Would you have any tips on how people can excel to help you solve those problems?
Learn two things. Become powerful, and by become powerful, I don't mean like go to Hogwarts and become a wizard, even though that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
It means learn who you are. Self-awareness is really critical. Self-awareness and communication, understanding your gifts and your strengths, and what you need to improve, and knowing how to communicate that. Being vulnerable, not being fronty, or like, you know, it's like, yo, like, hey, you're real, you're real. And asking, having the ability to ask clearly, hey, this is what I need, here's who I am, this is what I want to accomplish and what I want to build. You know, I always say, hello, fellow traveler, you know, where are you headed? Which is, what's your goals? What are your destination? You know, here are my gifts, you know, here's what I do well, what are your gifts? You know, that's usually the script. Would you like to travel together? If the gifts match, and if you can provide some value to each other. That is the secret to making and building anything, or to traveling with someone and succeeding. So at the end of the day, you need to know that. You need to know what your goals are and what your destination is, what you're meant to be, what you're meant to do, what your purpose is. And you need to know what you're good at and what your gifts are, and know it. And not only work at building those, because you could be very technically adept, you could be very, very good at a specific thing, and it shows. When you focus on what you love, it shows. Whatever that is, I don't care. If I need somebody who's good at illustrative, you know, design, or if I need somebody who's good at mobile, or if I need somebody who's a good facilitator, or if I need somebody who's a good, photographer, I want to know that those people are confident in that and are working to master those skills, and then that they're really easy to work with, and that they're goal oriented, and that they can produce things, and that they're not a pain in the ass to work with. So that's what, in order to excel, you need that. You need skill, you need passion for the particular genre or thing that you're doing, and don't be a dick.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's a little self-explanatory.
Yeah, self-awareness goes a long way.
That's cool. And how would you describe what I would need to do to become a creative director?
So you're already well en route. You're beginning to figure out what to do to become a creative director by asking a creative director how to become a creative director, if that makes sense. That's super smart. You ask. And then assessing like your current arsenal of skills. Like, here's my visual design and my documentation. You're beginning to practice core, so you'll have a few case studies of that, and you can show those to me, and I can give you feedback on what you need in order to kind of put it together. And then I would recommend that you continue talking to other creative directors. So you show them this video and the podcast, and you say, hey, I'm doing a series interviewing creative directors here in New York City about what it'll take for me to be a creative director. And as you gather that information, you begin to see, I like that, or I like that, and incorporate that into your own work. And do projects for your community, for your neighborhood. I don't care if they're free. I don't care how you do them for now. Build stuff. Build shit that's public, that people see, that provides value, and that becomes a case study. So when you have the idea of, here's the problem I solved for XYZ in my community, here's a solution, or here's a problem they had, here's a solution I came up with, and here's the results of that solution, that's real. And that I see that, and that you can tell me that story in 3 slides with examples, with a testimonial that your community said, this is what I did. The minute I see that, I'm like, okay, this person is powerful, and this person can be put on a project, because they show that they've done it, and that they've done it over and over and again. And it doesn't have to be perfect, or it doesn't have to be 100%. When you see potential and when you see execution, you can always polish it, you can always coach, teach, make it better, but it doesn't substitute the actuality of somebody doing it. Too many people, creatives especially, sit at home and fantasize about doing projects and doing things, and they just never do. So they say that the most expensive real estate in New York City is the cemeteries. Because billions of dollars of ideas go there to die. So you're at home telling yourself, well, I don't know, I don't have experience, I'm not good enough, I haven't done any of this, or I haven't done it, and you never do anything, then you're never going to do anything. You think I was sitting at home saying, I don't have any experience, I've never worked in a startup? No, I just went and did stuff. If I did it wrong, somebody would tell me to do it right, or if it wasn't good enough, I had to improve it for the next time. But there ain't no game if you don't even show up to play. So you gotta show up to play, and the more you play, the better you get. They say practice, but most people don't even get into the game, and that's sad. And if you want to succeed, you're gonna have to let go of the fear of playing the game for the fact that you might fail. Because I guarantee you're going to fail. You're going to fail over and over and over again. Just do it enough times that the failures become less, painful, or that they become smaller, or that now you know what to do. Because look, none of this stuff is rocket science. None of it is rocket